Let's assume that the debt ceiling was actually practical leverage that they could use against the Democrats, because there's debt ceiling and government shutdown, which are sort of similar, not exactly the same thing, but actually pretty far from the same thing, because the government can shut down for indefinitely, and the mandatory spending will keep the government going, and nothing's gonna happen except maybe a few people's paychecks aren't gonna get there. But then when it finally gets reopened, they'll get back pay anyways. Um, so what are the options that the Republicans have to actually negotiate? What can they get realistically with the current balance of power? Uh, so there's the main thing they want to do is attack mandatory spending. And as soon as you see mandatory spending, people think that means Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And those are not. The truth is they're not solvent. They're not self-sufficient programs, because they're basically they are pyramid scheme. They're not Ponzi schemes, but they're pyramid schemes. I mean, they're a Ponzi scheme in the sense that they're promising returns that aren't necessarily going to be there, because the government isn't an investment corporation. They're a spending on public welfare corporation. So there's that. But what's more, the point is more that they're a pyramid scheme. I mean, when people stop having babies and stop producing as much, then there's not as much Social Security income. So there's that. But they're more talking about the whenever you mention that, the Republicans say that they're talking more about fraud and wasteful spending and on dumb programs, dumb scientific research programs that nobody cares about, that like Rand Paul mentions. So, but the problem with that is that you can't um, earmark against that. You can't say we're gonna make a deal to cut out spending on dumb stuff or on dumb investigations, because that's more of the regulatory independence that you need to sort of fire people for. That's already illegal to misuse funds. I mean, the research programs that you want to end, yeah, okay, fine. The wasteful research, but the money that gets wasted by independent bureaucrats doing dumb things, you can't get rid of that money. You can't stop them spending that money unless you basically fire them and hold them accountable, and the money's already spent. So I don't think that there really is much for them to negotiate that isn't publicly questionable, like controversial. All the programs that the bulk of the vast majority of money that is driving us over the cliff is popular to spend. I mean, people are depending on that money. Like, as Ben Shapiro says, the sad fact of life is that Americans, when push comes to shove, actually want government to spend the money because they need it, or they feel bad if the people who are supposed to get it aren't going to get it. So that's why we're in debt so far, because even if the Democrats weren't as woke and as modern monetary theorists, we would still be this far in debt because the public can't stomach proper reform. I mean, let's say that we didn't have these Democratic wokes in the federal government, and you could negotiate to bend the curve, bend the trajectory of debt down, and let's say in 20 years you would get in 20 years you would, like, let's say, stop the debt at 40 trillion and start making surplus, paying it down. That would take 20 years because it would be super slow, and you would get so much farther into debt before it started fixing itself, because the public can't stomach it. That's the greater problem than the wokeism and the Democrats' monetary theories, in my opinion.